Everything starts with a breath. When you're overwhelmed or tired, you take one. You slow down for a second. The past year, I've been doing things the responsible way. Working, showing up, following structure, hitting deadlines, doing what makes sense. I kept thinking if I just stay consistent, it'll move. The results will come. Something will shift. But it didn't. I check my bank account and see almost nothing. Still in debt. Still behind. At work, I was trying, and still being told my performance wasn't enough. It felt like I was always catching up to something. Like the bar kept moving. And after a while, that starts getting to you. You start feeling behind in life. You start feeling unattractive, lethargic, like maybe you're just not worth that much. Not in a dramatic way, just quietly. I realized I was tired of being pushed. Pushed to perform better, pushed to wait longer, pushed to trust that eventually it would pay off. And I didn't want to keep waiting for something outside of me to decide when things would change. So I booked a trip to Sagada. Not because I thought it would fix everything. I just needed to see who I am when no one's pushing. I left the terminal around 9:30 p.m. The travel was around 11 hours total with 3 stopovers included. The first few hours were highway. People on their phones, then slowly trying to sleep once the lights went off. I tried to sleep too, but it was on and off. Around 3 or 4 in the morning, you'd start feeling the climb. You can tell you're gaining elevation even if it's still dark. And once you reach Benguet, that's when it shifts. The temperature drops, signal starts cutting out, the bus gets quieter. By sunrise, the mountains are right outside your window. People in jackets and layers are already out, starting their day. After sitting that long, when you step off the bus, your legs are stiff and your back hurts like a bitch, but you feel different, like you've at least moved. And sometimes, that's enough to start. Today is January 25, 2026, and this is my first day for my second week here in Sagada. So, for context, 2 weeks ago, pumunta na ako ng Sagada for the very first time. But I wasn't able to shoot a lot of things, to basically do a lot more activities kasi I wanted to get a feel of the place, and I sort of wanted to pace myself because this is my first time here in Sagada. So I did a lot of activities like going to Marlboro Hills or doing the Paytokan Trail. But I thought that 1 week wouldn't be enough for me, especially that I am working at night. So I decided to go here again for the second time. And coincidental din na this week ay magaganap yung Etag Festival nila. Hopefully, I'll get to do a lot of activities na connected sa festival and also to other things na hindi ko pa nagagawa, like Pottery, and even go to places like the Mount Ampacao. And right now, nandito ako sa Greenhouse Inn. It's a very cozy place and very mura lang din siya. 500 pesos per night. And I'm here in a solo room. Maraming mga good na facilities dito and amenities like on the coffee. Meron ding kitchen where we can cook, and if gusto namin ay pwede din kami mag-bonfire. So kakarating ko lang, hindi pa ako masyadong nag-aayos ng mga gamit dito, but I'm eager to give this sort of quote-unquote primer. So I sort of wanna give context then. This is one of the very first trips na I'll be doing for this year, and nagkaroon ako ng desire to travel and to document my experiences. Kasi I feel like I want to have a change of pace, and I also want to sort of add a little spice to my life. Kasi for the past 3 years, sobrang daming nangyari sa life ko. I paused my studies, even though na nasa last year na ako, in order to become a breadwinner of the family. And then I had a job, I lost a job, and then I had another job, and then I lost it, and now 4 months now sa new job ko. And may mga certain financial hits, certain news na medyo naging stressful sa akin and sa family ko, na all of those years, even though meron akong mga attempts to mag-enjoy, mag-unwind, hindi ko pa talaga natatry na magkaroon ng opportunity na mag-travel ng solo, ng matagal, na even though I'm working, meron akong ibang ginagawa besides sa usual things na ginagawa ko, like doing chores or maybe mag-sideline para mapunan yung mga pangangailangan namin, and of course mabayaran yung mga personal expenses ko like credit card bills and etc. That's why I wanted to start doing this. And to be very honest, I'm not very comfortable in front of the camera. This is the very first time that I'm actually doing this properly. Like for the past few years, even when I was in college, I've always had this desire to record, to document, and to travel. Pero parang palaging may something na missing, may certain element na off, kaya palagi siyang nade-delay. For example, on how I shoot things, on how I plan things, ang daming naging change. When it comes to my art style, ang daming naging change. Even yung mga pananaw ko sa buhay, back then, hindi siya deep enough para makapag-provide ng content na hindi wasteful. Hindi siya filler lang siya sa buhay ng mga makakapanood. And now that I feel like I've gained enough experiences para makapag-experience ng more experiences, I've decided na, hey, maybe it's time. So, I'm sorry if hindi ganun ako kadiretso magsalita, or medyo malabo yung camera kasi actually ang layo-layo niya. Hindi ko kita yung camera. Because I'm doing this as a newbie. I'm entering this new space that I've always wanted to enter. So please bear with me if ever na meron akong mga off na shots or off na mga masasabi, or even yung mga things na gagawin ko. in this trip and in the upcoming trips na pinaplan ko. Please bear with me, and I promise you I will do my very best in order to improve ng malala. Like, I don't right now, to be very honest, again, dami ko to be very honest. Ngayon pa lang ako recover financially. Ngayon pa lang ako medyo nakakahinga-hinga. And I'm taking this very big risk to start doing content, to travel, to gain new experiences, to meet new people. This is a very big risk, to a point na I even bought this DJI Osmo Pocket 3. DJI, baka naman. Oh, kapal na mukha, no? First video pa lang na gano'n agad. Nag-try na bumili ako ng camera para ma-make sure na kung ano man yung gusto kong i-showcase sa inyo or ipakita sa inyo, quality siya and naayon siya sa kung ano ba talaga yung gusto kong ipakita sa inyo. Okay, some may ask, why did I choose Sagada as the first trip for this year? Kasi madalas na akong gumagala to places where it's, you know, really loud and individualistic. I've always gone to clubs, to bars in Manila. I even went to La Union. I think it's 2024, yeah. And I wanted to go to a place na hindi lang siya tahimik, pero iba yung level ng peace na meron. I know a lot of you have this notion ng Sagada is a place for healing, for those na gustong mag-move forward or mag-move on. Maybe they've experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, and etc. Not just because tahimik talaga yung mga tao dito or malamig yung place or medyo secluded siya na you have to get on a bus for 10 to 11 hours just to get here. There's something spiritual about it. There's something magical about it na if you just try walking na medyo patakip silim na or when the sun is just starting to come out, yung nature itself tinatanggal lahat ng mga stress mo. And ang kagandahan din dito is sobrang hospitable ng mga tao. I remember 2 weeks ago, I wasn't expecting to meet a lot of people, you know, to mingle with the locals kasi I have no personal knowledge of this place. And then what happened, yung ang dami kong meet at nakachikahan ng mga tour guides na pati personal lives nila, nagkaroon ako ng idea. Nagpatattoo lang ako. And then all of a sudden, kainuman ko na at kasama ko na sa bonfire. And now, nandito na ako sa greenhouse in nakastay, kung saan nakastay din yung mga locals na kausap ko. And it feels like if you're going to release something, and if you're going to start over, you have to start with something na stable. You have to start with something na calm, na peaceful. And I think Sagada is a really good place to start. Para, kumbaga, if you're having this personal journey of finding yourself or building yourself back up, even if pumunta ka sa place na medyo chaotic or medyo social, medyo outgoing, medyo forward, hindi masisira kung ano man yung identity na slowly na binubuo mo dahil nag-start ka sa something na sobrang stable at sobrang peaceful. Hindi ko pa na-explore ang kabuuan ng Sagada. Dami ko pang place na hindi napupuntahan. Ang dami ko pang activities na hindi nagagawa. But I'm so sure na agad doon sa energy na meron na binibigay ng place na to. And I hope a lot of people would find this place not just a tourist spot, but an actual place of healing na hindi lang kayo pupunta just para lang hindi lang kayo pupunta para lang ma-tick off ito sa bucket list niyo or para lang masabihin, uy, nakapunta na ako dito or nagawa ko to or na-achieve ko to, pero meron ka talagang may experience na catharsis. When people talk about Marlboro Hills, they usually talk about the sea of clouds and that wide sunrise view you see all over Instagram. It's the kind of place people wake up at an unreasonable hour for, sometimes even bring drones for, hoping to get that one perfect shot. So when we got there and everything was covered in clouds, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little disappointed. Especially because the hike up wasn't exactly easy. The ground was muddy, slippery in some parts, and there were a few moments where I genuinely thought I might slip and get called up to heaven earlier than planned. You put in that effort expecting some kind of dramatic payoff. But instead of a big reveal, it was just layers of mountains barely visible through moving clouds. No clear horizon, no cinematic sunrise moment. And standing there, I had to adjust my expectations. It wasn't a postcard version of Marlboro Hills. It was just what it was that morning. After a while, the disappointment stopped feeling sharp. The clouds weren't clearing, and I realized they probably weren't going to. So I stopped staring at the horizon and started paying attention to what was actually around me. The path toward Blue Soul wasn't just muddy. There were rocky sections and big tree roots cutting across the trail. Some parts forced you to look down constantly just to place your foot properly. And in softer areas, the ground shifted slightly under your weight. The tour guide and the group I was with were moving fast, almost like we were trying to get somewhere urgently. And I'm not even sure why. Maybe we just didn't want to fall behind, so I kept pace, stepping over roots, adjusting on loose rocks, trying not to slip. Other tourists were doing their own version of that. Some stopped every few steps to take photos, adjusting angles, and asking for retakes because the clouds didn't cooperate. A few drones hovered above the fog, trying to capture something bigger than what we were actually seeing. And the funny thing was, about 20 minutes after we reached the hills, the sky had cleared somewhere behind us. There was a sea of clouds. We just couldn't see it from where we were standing. Watching people chase the perfect shot while standing inside the clouds felt strange. It made me think about how often I did the same thing, waiting for something obvious to tell me I was moving in the right direction. But most of the time it didn't work like that. So instead of waiting for everything to clear, we just kept walking. The more I focused on where my foot landed, the less I cared about whether the view improved. When the ground isn't steady, you adjust and keep moving. And for that stretch of time, that felt enough. I just came back from the Marlboro Hills and the Blue Soil trip. I already took a bath because I couldn't take it anymore. My legs hurt, so now I am treating myself with some good food, even though I know that bill is gonna be expensive. Recording this very covertly because, it's sort of my first time to shoot in public, as if I'm a documentary filmmaker or vlogger or something. But yeah, I'm here at the log cabin right now. I'm ordering brunch. Actually, I ordered a carbonara. It's a bechamel sauce with smoked meat. I think this is Etag. And then I'm also going to order the roast paprika chicken, house gravy with rice and side salad. Yes. And hopefully, I'll be so full with good food. It feels a bit weird recording here right now, but doing my best. After walking through mud and rocks for hours, my body stopped negotiating and just wanted something warm and filling. Hunger felt straightforward in a way everything else lately hadn't. There was no one measuring how fast I was moving or whether I was doing it right. I was just eating because I was hungry. I knew the food wasn't cheap. I knew it would sting a little when I checked my wallet later. And normally that thought would sit in the back of my head and turn the whole meal into something that I had to justify. But that morning, I didn't. I didn't calculate whether I deserved it. I didn't turn it into another performance metric. I hadn't been very good at treating myself without attaching conditions to it, and even small things usually came with questions whether they were productive or necessary. Eating without turning it into something strategic felt simple, but it also felt intentional. It was a small choice, but it was mine. For a few minutes, I wasn't competing or trying to prove anything. I was just paying attention to what was in front of me. It was just food, and for that moment, that was enough. The next day, I went back out to do the Paytokan Trail on my own, this time with a different guide. It was just the two of us moving through it. No group setting the pace, no one trying to get ahead, no pressure to match anyone else's speed. The energy felt different from the start, slower and more focused. There was space to listen and to look around without feeling like I had to keep up with anything. From there, we moved into the cemetery. Kuya Biag explained that long before it became a burial ground, this area used to be a path for headhunting. It was practiced as preemptive defense and also as a form of trophy taking, part of how communities protected themselves at the time. It wasn't told with pride or shame, just as history. Later, the land was bought by an American missionary and turned into a cemetery for the community of Ganduyan, the former name of Sagada. The space shifted from conflict to rest, but the history remained. He also mentioned panagapoy. Candles were scarce back then, so the missionary encouraged the locals to use what was available. They burned wood instead. The ritual wasn't about decoration, but about honoring the dead with what the land could provide. Standing there, it felt layered. One place holding different chapters of the same story. The cliffs opened up wider than I expected. Even small sounds carried farther than they should have. Kuya Biag pointed out the hanging coffins along the limestone walls. From a distance, they blended into the rock, but up close, the shape was unmistakable. Wood suspended against stone, weathered by sun and rain. He explained that those nearing death would make their own coffins, and when they passed, relatives prepared a space in or on the mountains while the body remained at home. The younger men carried the dead in procession, as there was a belief that being touched by the fluids from the body would bring luck or grant a wish. It wasn't told as spectacle, just as part of how things were understood. Standing beneath the cliffs, it felt less like a story and more like proximity. Death wasn't hidden away. It was acknowledged directly, built into the landscape itself. The awe wasn't loud. It came from realizing how closely life and death once existed side by side. Somewhere along the trail, Kuya Biag mentioned that there had been accidents in the caves before. Not legends, not exaggerated stories, just people misjudging distance, stepping where they thought the ground was solid, underestimating how tight a passage actually was. I said it so casually, like you would mention the weather. The caves didn't look extreme from the outside. They weren't cinematic, but once you were near them, you could see how easy it would be to get overconfident. The rock wasn't smooth, the ground wasn't stable. Depth was harder to read than it seemed. You had to slow down, not out of fear, but because the terrain demanded it. And hearing about those accidents while standing there made the earlier stories about burial feel less distant. Risk wasn't something abstract from the past, it was built into the landscape. When we reached the river near Balcong Falls, the water moved steadily over rocks that didn't look stable enough to trust. I paused, took off my socks, and put them away. And instead of trying to step around the water and keep my shoes dry, I walked straight through it. The water was cold, but manageable. The rocks shifted slightly under my feet, enough to remind me that balance wasn't automatic. My shoes were soaked within minutes, and I kept walking. After hearing about accidents in caves and walking through a place that carried so much history, keeping my shoes dry didn't feel urgent. Preparing for it felt better than pretending I could avoid it. And by the time we reached the falls, there was nothing left to protect. The shoes were already wet. I stepped where I needed to step and let the water move around me. I wasn't trying to move perfectly. I was just trying to move forward. Right now, here sa Piitik Wines to try out their wide variety of wines. Actually, mag-isa lang ako dito. I have no idea why. I mean, it's a Sunday, so supposedly there should be a lot of people. Lalo na ang dami ko nakita kanina ng mga turista na, coming in and out of Sagada. But for those people na aren't knowledgeable about the Piitik Wines, this place is an honesty store, meaning walang nagbabantay. You have to be very honest sa kung ano bibilin mo. Nakalagay naman yung mga prices, kung gaano kadami yung may inom mo for a certain amount of pesos. And it's really cozy. It's really nice na medyo mapag-isa. Lalo na ngayon na paggabi na, it's 6:05 and it's really cozy with lots of good choices to buy, good music, and just me and my thoughts. I came here kasi I couldn't sleep. I tried sleeping around 1 p.m. pero namahay ako for some reason, which happens a lot, lalo na if I'm traveling. So I just came here to check the place out, kung gaano kasarap yung mga offerings nila. And basically, I'm doing this as a pre-game kasi mamaya mag-iirap kami ng mga kasama ko sa inn. Di ko sila kilala at all. I mean, nag-usap-usap na kami kanina pero I have no idea what their names are. And I'm hoping for a really good time later. Hello. Well, it's a false alarm kasi I forgot na may work pala ako habang sila ay nainom at nagchitikahan ako ay nag-work right now. So ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina na medyo bago pa lang ako dito sa bagong work. Yung job ko dito is I do PR. I reach out to publications, to journalists in order to feature yung product, yung brand, and yung company na pinagtatrabahuan ko ngayon. Of course, hindi ko sasabihin kung ano yung company na pinagtatrabahuan ko ngayon para, I still maintain this some sense of privacy. And to be very honest, yung kinikita ko dito sa current job ko is lower than the income na nakukuha ko dun sa mga previous jobs ko. Pero I feel like I'm freer, I guess, and I'm much more excited to do my work. Kasi for so many years, I've always wanted to pursue a career in public relations. I mean, besides the whole content creation thing. And yeah, even though naman din na medyo mababa yung income na nakukuha ko dito, I can still get commissions for every placement that I can get for and for the company. So I think it's sort of like a win still. And I'm not even stressed about the whole night shift thing kasi sanay din naman ako na mag-work sa gabi. And it's also fun kasi I can do a lot of things at once. Besides being the breadwinner of the family, I can still pursue the creative needs that I have. And manifesting lang din, and if, maybe in the future, maybe a lot of people will get to watch my videos, people will follow me on my social media platforms. I feel and I think that I'm still going to work kasi I want to have this sense of normalcy kahit papaano. Yeah, I do want to travel. I do want to do a lot of content creation stuff. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of people have been succumbed to this spectacle because of the desire to not work from 8 to 5, to be able to get more money. So, I want to maintain this balance sa akin. So, my schedule sa work is currently 10:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. with like a 30-minute break. Mag-change naman tong schedule na to around March because of the daylight savings time. So, it will move to 9:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. And again, with a 30-minute break. Ano din, I mean, way back before, puro night shift din yung work ko. Like, on my last job before this, my schedule was 12 midnight to 8 a.m. with no break. Dire-diretso lang siya. So, it's not much of a shock. But, ang weird thing lang din dito is when you are doing a work vacation, medyo fucked up talaga yung, yung schedule mo. Kasi, like for example, if there's a planned activity in the morning, so ang mangyayari is after work mo, rekta ka na doon sa activity rin, or you may get to prepare for like an hour or two, pero afternoon, dire-diretso na. And then, matutulog ka na lang ng, let's say, hapon to gabi. And then, maybe on the day after, biglang yung next planned activity naman is in the afternoon. So, ang mangyayari is after work mo, syempre kakain ka. And then, matutulog ka. So, may shift na naman. And then, there will always be some instances whereas yung activity is either in the middle or there are multiple activities within the day. So, you have to make sure na you get to rest still. But then again, sobrang fucked up pa rin ang body clock mo. That's why I'm doing my best. I'm really doing my best. I feel like kakayanin naman because I still have the energy to do it. But, in the evening, meron din atang camping pakana ng mga tour guide here. Kasi meron ako mga kasama dito na supposedly ay aalis na bukas. And then, medyo nahilot. Kaya mag-extend sila up until Sunday ata or Monday, I think. Kasi there's one guy here. Ang alis niya dapat ay bukas or mamaya. Oh my God. Wala na akong sense of time. Bigla na lang siyang mag-extend. So, supposedly alis niya mamaya pero hindi na siya tutuloy doon. Ibebenta na lang niya yung bus ticket niya and then dire-diretso na siyang mag-work vacation. And I find it really interesting, kasi as Filipinos, it's very hard to go on a vacation kasi you're always anticipating what's gonna happen after that. So it's really fun to see na, it's okay to be reckless sometimes. It's okay na medyo mamanipulate ng mga tour guide. Kasi, malay mo naman, it's for your own good. It's for your own sanity. And most of the time, ang mangyayari niyan is, once you go back to your work, you'll always look and feel so refreshed. Ako naman, wala na ako, hindi ko na need na mamanipulate kasi work from home naman ako. So I can bring my job and it won't be much of a problem. But yeah, it's really fun to see people, taking the chance to be slightly reckless. Right now, we are at Salt and Pepper Diner. Pumunta na ako ngayon habang wala pa masyadong mga tao kasi ever since malapit yung festival, parami na ng parami yung mga taong dumadating dito sa Sagada. So I'm taking my chance now. Yeah, in order to prepare myself for the camping day because I have no idea exactly where, kung saan pupunta. And I don't know kung gaano katagal yung magiging hike. I'm gonna eat a lot. I ordered the pork etag sisig. I haven't tried that. And the etag ramen as well. I've tried the etag ramen on my first week here. Good luck na lang talaga sa chan ko mamaya. But the good thing is, I think konti lang naman yung nainom kong coffee. It won't be much of a problem for me later. Got served already with the house blend iced tea. I haven't tried this as well. Let's see kung anong magiging lasa niya. The mess. Well, to be fair, hindi naman ako masyadong sweet tooth and I don't drink or sweets that often, but more refreshing yun, to be very honest. Meron din siyang mga bits of, I don't know kung ano to, kung lemon ba to or mandarin or whatever, pero okay naman siya. Well, medyo man napadami pa yung order natin. Hindi ko in-expect na medyo malaki yung servings niya pero bilang hindi tayo umatras sa isang challenge, ubusin natin to. Okay lang na maging bloated kasi mailalakad naman to mamaya. Camping at Mount Ampacao wasn't really planned. It came up casually at Greenhouse Inn. A few people decided to extend their stay, and the rest of us agreed without overthinking it. It didn't feel like a big decision. It just felt like something we were open to. We headed up while there was still light, the sky thick with clouds and the air starting to cool. The mood was steady, not loud, not chaotic. Just people moving together without trying to make it into an event. 3 of the guides from the inn joined us. No formal briefing, no itinerary, just wood, open space, and time. As the fire caught and the music started playing, conversation loosened up. People started sharing stories about past relationships, the kind you don't usually tell strangers unless the setting feels safe. Some were funny, almost embarrassing. Others had that mix of regret and acceptance that only shows up after enough time has passed. There was teasing and light gossip, a little bit of sexual banter that stayed playful but honest, nothing forced. No one trying to dominate the conversation, and it felt like people talking because they wanted to, not because they had to fill the silence. Someone brought up solo travelers who had gone camping in the middle of a typhoon. Not because they were stuck, but because they thought it would make a better story. It sounded reckless, of course, but also strangely admirable. That desire to experience something fully, even when it's uncomfortable. And listening to everyone, I realized how rare it is to sit in a circle where no one is performing, no one trying to look impressive, just stories moving around the fire. As the night settled in, the fire became the center of everything. I found myself watching it more than talking. And in fact, I didn't share any stories that night. I didn't feel the need to match the tone of the circle or add something of my own, and normally I would have tried to contribute, to say something interesting, to make sure I wasn't fading into the background. But sitting there, that pressure wasn't there. I wasn't curating a version of myself or shaping a narrative to fit the moment. The fire moved in slow patterns, music played softly, conversations drifted in and out. I didn't feel behind. I didn't feel like I needed to prove that I had lived enough. For once, I wasn't measuring myself against anyone else's story. I was just listening. And that felt steady.
Sa pottery, may tatlong klase. Meron po tayo yung earthenware. Ito po yung low-fired pottery na kagaya ng gawain nila sa Bigan, sa Pampanga, and some other parts of the country. Ito yung pwedeng lutuan, lagyan na ng tubig, mga paso-paso, mga tapayan, mga burnayan, mga palayok. Those are examples of earthenware, low-fired pottery. Sa amin dito, it is called stoneware. High-fired pottery po kami. Bagamat hindi sila pwedeng lutuan, ngunit microwavable naman po and food grade, at katulad ng porcelain, they are perfect for food containers. So, ang unang-una kong gagawin, I would have to center the clay with the speed of the wheel and with the pressure from both of my hands. Ito po ang centering. Importante ang se-center natin siya para maganda ang kakalabsan ng ating gagawin pot. Pag hindi po kasi siya na-center, we cannot shape it the way we want it. So first and foremost, we have to center the clay. So once centered, the very first shape that we are going to do is a cylinder. And it is always a cylinder that comes first before we will shape it to another shape. So to do the cylinder, I would have to put a hole at the very center, and then from there we are going to pull the clay out. So how are we going to do this? Here we kind of compress at the bottom, and then we slide our fingers up hanggang taas. Ulitin natin para tumaas pa. Compress at the bottom, and then we slide. This now is our cylinder. Now, out of this cylinder, we are going to shape it to another shape. So, in shaping, the pressure would have to come from my inside hand. Itutulak nating palabas, habang tinutulak, tinataas, dahan-dahan. Dito naman po sa gitna, itulak nating paloob, dahan-dahang pataas, at bago sa pinakamataas, itulak nating palabas. Sa pottery, it's about feeling. Always feel how thick or how thin, so you would know when to stop. So here we can push it further outwards to balance it. In here we can push it further in to have a distinctive neck. So from here, I would have to air dry it for 5 days. 5 days later, it becomes leather dried. I would have to come back. I will trim it at the very bottom, take all out the excess clay, and then I will attach the handle. We will air dry it again for another month before we cook it.
Later, I tried my hand at pottery. Sitting in front of the wheel with a block of clay felt different from everything else that week. There was No scenery to react to, and no story to absorb. Just the sound of the wheel spinning and my hands trying to stay steady. It didn't take long to realize that the clay responded more to how I moved than how strong I was. When I adjusted my touch, the ship followed. So I slowed down. Lighter pressure, smaller movements, letting the wheel spin instead of fighting it. You can't rush something like that. The moment you push too aggressively, the form shifts in ways you don't expect. For a few minutes, all I focused on was making sure something could actually take shape. It wasn't flawless, but it held. And knowing I could create something with my hands, even something simple, felt grounding. By the time the Etag Festival began, the town center felt completely different from the quiet trails and mountains. The streets filled with movement, groups walked in formation, drums setting a rhythm that carried through the air and into your chest. The steps weren't rushed, they were deliberate, repeated in patterns that felt practiced and inherited rather than improvised. Some wore traditional clothing that moved with each step. Others stood along the sides, watching carefully, waiting for their turn. Children stayed close to the elders. The energy wasn't chaotic, it was contained and focused. I stayed behind the camera, watching through the lens as people passed by. It didn't feel like a show being performed for us. It felt like something that belonged to them first, something that would have happened even if no one was filming it. There were moments where the music intensified and the rhythm became harder to ignore. Then it would soften again. Speeches followed, words about tradition, about keeping practices alive, about remembering origins and responsibilities. People listened with attention that didn't feel performative. From where I stood, it felt less like entertainment and more like continuity. The music wasn't background sound, it carried weight. The movements weren't just choreography, they were repetition with purpose. Tourists filmed and took photos, but the center of gravity never shifted towards them. The celebration wasn't orbiting outsiders. We were the ones orbiting it. And that was what made it interesting. After days of walking alone, listening to stories about the past, shaping clay with my own hands, watching an entire community move together felt grounding in a different way. It wasn't about self-reflection, it was about witnessing something larger than yourself. I wasn't in the center of it. I was on the edge, observing. And for once, being on the edge didn't feel like exclusion. It felt appropriate. There was a point where everything went quiet enough for me to hear my own thoughts without them competing with anything else. Not the dramatic kind of quiet, just the kind where nothing is asking you to respond. I kept thinking about how much of my life lately has felt like reaction. Reacting to expectations, reacting to pressure, reacting to fear of falling behind, and standing there without anyone talking to me, without anything moving toward me. I realized how unfamiliar it felt to not be reacting. There wasn't a breakthrough, no sudden clarity, just the awareness that I didn't need to decide anything in that moment. I didn't need to promise change. I didn't need to prove growth. I didn't need to map out the next version of myself. For once, I wasn't trying to become something. I wasn't quietly calculating how the week would translate into growth or whether it would be enough to justify the time and money that I had spent. I wasn't measuring whether I had changed in a way that would show up clearly once I went home. That habit of extracting proof from every experience has been so constant that I didn't recognize how heavy it was until it softened. Before coming here, most days felt like reaction. Reacting to pressure, reacting to the feeling that something about my life needed to be corrected quickly. Even rest carried a quiet question of what it would lead to. Even creating something came with an evaluation waiting behind it. At some point, those evaluations weren't as loud. They weren't gone, but they weren't in control either. I wasn't turning the moment into evidence that I was improving. I wasn't building a cleaner narrative about myself in real time. And that absence of urgency felt unfamiliar. When you stop pushing forward, you're left with who you are without momentum to hide behind, without improvement as a distraction, without the promise that the next version will redeem the current one. I didn't feel transformed or healed. I didn't feel certain. But I felt less defensive, less rushed to justify myself through progress. Nothing had been solved. The same life was still there. It just didn't feel like a verdict. There wasn't a cinematic realization waiting at the edge of the mountains. The same life was still there, unchanged, waiting for me to step back into it. But I understood something I hadn't articulated before. A lot of the exhaustion that I'd been carrying wasn't just from work or debt or expectations. It came from constantly trying to stay ahead of a version of failure I hadn't even met yet, bracing against outcomes that hadn't happened. That posture becomes normal after a while, and you start to believe vigilance is responsibility, that pushing yourself is maturity, that pressure is proof you care. Somewhere along the way, I confused tension with progress. Sagada gave me distance from that posture. It slowed me down long enough to notice it. It placed me in situations where control wasn't the point, where silence didn't need to be filled, where creation didn't require justification. Walking through mud without perfect footing, staying quiet in a circle without performing, creating something with my hands without asking what it would earn me, watching a community celebrate something that existed long before I arrived. None of those moments were dramatic on their own, but together, they showed me how much of my life had been spent tightening instead of allowing. The future still isn't mapped out. I don't have guarantees. I don't know how everything resolves. Nothing is fixed. But something is softer.